Okay, welcome to another online event with Dublin Coding School. Today we're going to be talking about UX design and web development, and particularly applying for roles and what you need to have in your CV if you're looking for jobs in that area, and also maybe a bit about portfolios as well. I'm joined by Shaun Keller, who is a UX designer and also a web developer, and is one of our lecturers here at the school. Hi, Shaun. How you doing?
Hi everybody.
Great. Okay, look, before I'm going to have a quick chat with Shaun, but before I do, just for anyone who's joining us for the first time, um, just a little bit about us. So, Dublin Coding School, we're a career change tech education provider. We've been going now for 3.5 years, and we've trained many people um, to get ready for the workplace here in Ireland in things like data analytics, full stack web development, UX, UI design, software testing, cybersecurity, Python. And we have a new course now actually called React Fundamentals. So we have lots of different courses to upskill and get involved um, and have a career change. You can get us at Dublin Coding School. Sorry, dublincoding.ie is the website where you can check out our courses. Maybe we'll talk a bit about that later on, but we're going to get back now to Shaun. And before Shaun talks about CVs and portfolios, maybe just a bit about you, Shaun. So how did you get involved first as a web developer, or what drew you to a career in web development?
So my background was basically in business, and it just became very stagnant. You would be sitting there maybe doing forecast spreadsheets and stuff like that, and you'd be looking at them going, these just don't look good. And then I started doing a bit of research and got very keen and interested in developing ways that we could visually display that information. And so I basically looked around, found a school, which ended up being Dublin Coding School, and took the web development course and did a full transition where now I work full time as a web developer and a UX UI designer.
Okay, and when you're working I know you're working with Helios Information as a web developer. So what is the usual kind of day for a web developer? Just if people are watching this thinking about maybe doing a web development course and changing their careers, then what's it like to work as a web developer?
You know what? Without sounding very immature, it doesn't feel like work at all. It's actually quite fun. The atmosphere is relaxed. We start our days, depending on each company will be different. We have our daily stand-up meeting, talk about what's going to be covered and what we're working on that day. We all are in our teams. We have separate teams that we work in our company. There's two teams. I work as a front-end developer, um, and we have back-end developers specifically for that. Then we're tasked, so we'll have a Scrum board that has our tasks on it that are allotted to us. So I'll have, say, maybe 3 or 4 tickets on that Scrum board that have my name on it that I have to attend to, which could vary from creating new components, maintaining, writing tests to cover for code coverage, or dealing with a bug that's something that was already created and just is not reacting and functioning the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, and then you also, I know in your career, so you started out in web development, but then you added more skills, to your arsenal and became a
Yeah,
UX designer as well. And you also are a UX designer at what's the company again?
Bell Media.
Yeah. So what's it like to be a UX designer? And
UX
is it very different?
designer is a little different than web development. Same type of scenario, except web development, when you're working in a company, the designer creates what the visual is going to be, and we develop that visual. Where as a designer, you're creating the visual for the developers to build. So the reason I took it was it gave me insight of what we were developing and why we were developing it and why we were developing it that specific way. So it was extremely beneficial for me, and I just fell in love with both. So I'm fortunate enough that I can do both. I do one for one company and I design for one company and I develop for another.
Yeah, it's really fantastic, and it shows how those two skill sets go together. I think I know also in some startups or smaller companies they do look for people who can do both, but then in the bigger
Yeah.
companies they can be two different departments altogether.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so look, we might as well get to the main topic here. So people will be watching this who maybe they've done a web development course or a UX course and they're looking to get their first job and they want to put together their CV, or else they're looking to get involved in the area and just look for more information about it. So it'd be great. I'm just going to hand over to you now, maybe to talk through some of the things that need to go in a CV, some tips, some insider stuff. And I know you're also going to talk about your portfolio a bit and things like that. So I'll hand over to you for a little bit. And just to let anyone know who's watching this, if you have any questions at all, you can type them into the chat on our Facebook Live. But also, if you're watching the recording and you have a question, you can email the question to info@dublincoding.ie. That's info@dublincoding.ie, and just write event question and type your question, and we will get back to you straight away with an answer there. So I'll just hand over to Shaun now to share your screen and talk through how to create the best UX, UI, and web development CV. Thank you.
No problem. Hi, everybody. So I'm just going to start sharing the screen here, hoping everybody will be able to see it. Which one am I sharing? Yeah. All right. So right now you're actually looking at a replica of basically my CV. So your CV is going to be basically like every other CV you've made, except you want to put your own kind of personality into it as well so that you stand out. So you've got your titles of what you work as, your name, obviously your contact details, your employment history, and then you'll move down. Obviously, you're gonna, no matter where, if you're starting out in web development, don't discount your previous work or your academic background. Those insights could be something the company is looking for with whatever projects they're doing for development. Also, any certificates that you do, whether it be with Dublin Coding School, which I recommend, or you've done one elsewhere, always put that continuous learning on your CV. As for other stuff like your skills, when you've done or completed a certificate, make sure that you list your skills. So for my UX UI design, I'm skilled in wireframing, prototyping, user research, user flows. And then the UX UI design tools that I use are Figma, Photoshop, Sketch, Zeppelin, Adobe XD, Overflow, and the list could go on. There are so many out there like Miro, etc. And web development is no different. Okay, so those of you who have probably, if you're a little more seasoned as a web developer, you will probably have a link to your portfolio. So for me, as an example, I built a portfolio website. So this was my initial entrance into the web development industry. And what it does is it allows you to showcase one as your website of what your capacity and what you're able to do. So in mine, I've got my JavaScript that allows me to change, say, the colors of the theme. I can go light or dark mode, etc. Your information that you would have with your education, just like on your CV, the services that you're going to offer. So you can do app design, web design, brand design, UX, UI designs, etc. And then for web developers, portfolio projects, as these are 3 examples that I did while I was practicing. I built a local one, and you would have a link to that so that they could look along your website that say you've built interaction, stuff like that. They'll also possibly inspect the page to check and see if it's responsive the way it should be, so that everything condenses. And as you notice, the menu bar, bringing it down, how it reacts, stuff like that. Will it bring me back to the home page? Yes, it does. So it focuses on your skills that you've learned and that you're continuously practicing. Same thing with for full one, you go to services. I tried something different where I put in modals to see how they react. The work would be the same. I put in a mixer that allows me to differentiate from design. So design, I did these as a demo, apps that I've done, the websites, etc. The more you have, obviously, the better. But do not be discouraged if you only have one. You're starting off, it's brand new. It's going to be not a struggle, but you're not like employers are not going to expect you to know everything right off the bat. I would say when I went in, the reason I got my position, I would say it was 95% confidence and 5% of knowledge and skill that when I first started. Now, don't get me wrong, the course I took gave me an immense amount of knowledge, but they're not going to expect you to have the knowledge that someone that has 10 years experience already has. Okay. So now switching to design, it is basically the same thing, except you don't have websites that you've built that would be, say, a reference for companies to look at. So you could give them links on your website. So in projects here, I started to work on one relatively just before Christmas. I haven't really touched it much, but I started, this is my plan of how I was designing to build it. Okay. So I came up with this idea and the problems that's what design is for. It's fixing the problems. And then so you basically run down your processes, the competitor analysis, your user research. So I was fortunate enough to interview all of these people in regards to my idea for my app. The outcomes of those interviews, stuff like that. The user goals, you map them out, the user journey, and then you'll go into, say, information architecture of an admin role will have this is all their functions of stuff of what they're going to do. And then say the user itself, so say a nurse or a physician in my case would go in, they'd select in and they'd have all these options of what they would be using as a user. Then you explain to the companies, okay, well, these are preliminary solutions. I am old-fashioned. My ideation started with hand drawing. Some people go right into the software. I decided to hand draw them. Then I did my mood board so that I knew to focus, okay, it's got to be reliable, time efficient, trustworthy. Some photos and ideas of colors that I might use. The company that I'm trying to build with the app is honest, it's reliable, and it delivers high quality. Then you move into your low fidelity designs, or you might use a software like Figma or Miro, or just about, there are so many to name. And then you show them, okay, well, it started with this. And then you give an example of your design system. So the typography, like what fonts you're going to use, the sizes, your button system, modals, input fields, your color scheme, and then you go into a little bit higher fidelity where you start to design your actual app itself, and you'll see it gets a little bit more clearer and more in depth. And then you wireframes going on to basically show how each one will react and where it will take you to the functionality. And then you let them know, like you test, you refine, and you repeat it all over again. And a link to this is you would put this on, say, here in your resume, possibly, if you don't have a website. you would copy the link and put it into your projects, or at the top, I recommend underneath here, you would say link to your portfolio or project, so that they have a point where they can see what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what you've changed. For those of you that may say have a mental block, happens to me all the time, don't get discouraged. Take an app, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Tinder even, and try and recreate it. That makes it a little more user friendly and the functionality works better. 95% of all things have been developed before. To think you're going to create something completely new, very hard to do. You're going to borrow and pick pieces from everywhere to create your experience. So that would be my recommendation. You need to make sure that they have a point of to see what you're able to do, and the engagement you're doing. So another one I have is in Figma. Um, I created my resume in Figma. Obviously, designer, it's a bit of a way to cheat, I guess. But you'll see like something I was working on. You'll go into stuff, and you could use your link that goes in dev mode that will show you when this loads up. Sorry, internet's being a bit slow. Where you can switch it to dev mode, and when you go to share, you can copy this link, the dev link, and attach it with your resume so that they can see what you've done. And it'd be the same thing with a website that you developed. There are things like GitHub, where you can stash all your projects in a repository and just give the company a link to your repository, and they can go in and inspect all those as well. And lastly, and what I think is the most important on a CV, is the personal interests. I've encountered so many things, both as someone who is doing interviews and someone being an interview. You need to be you. So let the company know who you are, okay? A lot of companies will interview someone and you'll hear the term, oh, that maybe I wasn't the right fit. A lot of it is based on the person, okay? So let them know in advance who you are. So in mine, I enjoy lecturing. That's why I lecture with Dublin Coding School. I love to mentoring other designers because I have experience with it, and those coming into it ask questions, and I love to be able to show them something that they may not have known. I'm an avid sportsman. As you can tell, I don't sound technically Irish, even though I am. I was raised in Canada. I love ice hockey. I still play ice hockey. And I love to travel in my own time. I do as much travel as possible. And you'd be surprised at the impact seeing something new elsewhere brings to my development and to my design. So don't be afraid to be yourself, because if you go in pretending to be someone that you're not, it will show in your work. So be yourself. Let them know who you are as a person. The skills and stuff will come as you get more experience and the more you practice. Other than that, it's just fun. Don't go in nervous, oh, I'm not going to know this, or I might not know that. Be yourself. They don't expect you to know everything. For back-end developers, it's a little tougher. You would definitely need to have more of a knowledge base, even though you do need knowledge base, say, for front end. But there's no way to actually visually display your work as a back-end developer. So if you're strictly looking to back-end developer, have your knowledge base a little bit more in tuned for technical questions, as opposed to, say, a front end who would go in and they might go, okay, here's a problem. This button is not the right color. How would you change it? And then you obviously you go into your styling file, find it, change the color to what they were hoping for, and then there you go. But all in all, just make sure that you have everything that you have. Like, do not disregard your previous experience if you have previous experience from another industry. Everything accounts for something. So when you're making that switch like I did, I will be the first one to admit that I was like, oh, how am I going to do this? I'm going from one thing to something completely new. Another thing, apply for internships with your CV. When you've got it built and you feel comfortable with everything that say is on there, apply for internships. It is the best way. And there are internships out there that possibly offer payment. If the financial portion of it is a little bit depending on your circumstance, then apply for junior jobs. They're not going to expect you to know everything, and you will get taught on the job. I am a person that I learn better working than I would if you just gave me a book. So 98% confidence, guys. Just be yourself, be confident, and just show them that you are that person for that position when you apply for it. It's and your CV, make sure it's up to date, it's in tune. Don't overload them with a whole bunch of information. Make it quick to the point, give a short statement, and then just make sure your skills are highlighted with projects and who you are. Okay. That would be my 2 cents in regards to building your CV. As you can see from mine, it's a little bit different than, say, a prototypical CV. I do take into account that if you can catch their eye, they're going to take a look at your CV before one that is just plain. That's the designer in me, though. So that's all based on personal preference. Other than that, if you have any questions about specific things, feel free to ask. And I will let Mr. Treacy come back and see if there's anything that he has in store.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shaun. So remember, if anyone's watching now and you do have a question, please, this is your chance to type it into the bottom and you can ask Shaun a question on the CV. That is a good point about applying for things when you read the description and it's not quite, you feel you mightn't fit it. But I suppose one thing I know from talking to students and doing consultations here too is you never know what the story is on the other side. They might have been trying to fill that role for 4 or 5 months. And if you fill even 70% of what they're looking for, you might be called up for interview and just get in. I mean, would you agree with that, Shaun? So I think you've gone.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. So I can give you an example just with our company. We were looking for a specific type of developer, and it was 9 months before, and they couldn't get anybody. So they actually, fortunately enough, I could say, one of the students that I lectured applied for the internship in that specific role and is now working with me.
Yep.
Obviously doesn't have the experience because he's brand new like I was coming out. But it was so hard that they said, you know what, we'll get an intern in, teach him the way we want it done. And it'll probably most likely turn into a full-time position.
Yeah. And would you have any top 3 mistakes maybe that people make, or top 3 things to really look out for, or kind of errors you could make when putting together a CV, or things that?
Yeah, okay. So from a hiring standpoint, it doesn't have to be 3 pages long, no matter what your experience is. Yeah, most hiring managers do not have the time to read through a 3-page resume. They will focus on your strengths, your skills. Your statement is a great one. So like mine, as you can see on the screen, it says, my statement says that I'm a seasoned UX designer with over a decade long track record and crafting user-centric experience. I'm new to development. I'm a newly minted junior front-end engineer. It's keywords. It'd be the same thing with, say, if you're an experienced designer, never say 10 plus years or 15 years. The terminology you use, if you say over a decade, there's keywords that stand out more than anything else. So proofread it. Make sure it's grammatically correct. To the point. Don't overwhelm them with a whole bunch of energy and information on a page.
Yeah. Okay, that's really, really good advice there. So, by the way, you mentioned putting in your hobbies and that. So you played ice hockey, I think, at quite a high level.
I did, yeah.
Filling in the audience, what your experience is in hockey, ice hockey.
I was a goalie. Grew up in Canada. I actually played junior in the junior league in Quebec for one season, and then took a step to the side and went and did something else to pay for university. But anything higher than that would have been professional.
Okay, and what was the team?
It was I used to play for Rimouski.
What are they called? Moosty.
Rimouski. It's a town.
Oh, Rimouski. Okay, okay. And did they have a kind of a nickname?
Not really, just Rimouski.
Yeah. Okay. And you're playing a goal. So from ice hockey to web development and UX design. So it's a bit of a change. So do you have any kind of? I'll just check if there were any closing questions in the chat. We've maybe a shy audience today who don't want to ask questions, but they're still watching and listening. So do you have any kind of closing statements or anything else before? Maybe we'll stop sharing the screen actually, because we'll have.
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any final thoughts to talk to people about who might be about to write their own CV in the area? Or
okay, so in general, like I said, you keep it short to the point. Too much information. Hiring managers don't really have the time to read through a 2-3 page resume. Be short, straight to the point. In regards to making it personal, that it stands out. As you saw, guys, in mine, I put colors in it. There's a photo of me in it. I listed personal interests. A lot of places, they don't discount the person. If they like the person, you can be trained in how they want it structured or how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
When you're in regards to having the technical stuff on your CV, my recommendation is have a minimum of one project that a company can look at. They know you're just starting out, but continue to add to that in your own time. It's an ever evolving industry. Things change, things become depreciated, and it's constantly have to learn anyway.
Yeah. So, and do you have links in your CV directly to projects in your portfolio?
Not in this demo one. Not in this demo one that I put together just as an example, but in my original one, yes, I have links to my design portfolio and to my web development portfolio.
Because that's a question that comes up, how to link the portfolio. Do you send it as a separate document? Do you have a hyperlink within it? Or do you just say available on request? Or what's the best way, do you think?
So my links, I have the links actually on my CV underneath my personal information.
Yeah.
I also do copy the links and leave them with a note, not like a postscript, but just before I culminate the end of my email, I will say, for your information, here are links to my design files. Here are the links to my development portfolio. It won't hurt because you could have a hiring manager that's looking for, say, a front-end developer, clicks open your development portfolio and sees that you were able to create amazing interfaces. Then he'll go back look at your CV for your phone number or email and contact you.
Yeah, it can happen like that, can't it? And also, I know something that comes up when we're talking to people as well. When you're going for those entry-level roles, your motivation and getting that across is one of the key things. You know, they want to hire someone who isn't any trouble, who's motivated, who's going to come in and want to learn. And as you said before, they don't expect you to have all the answers, do they, initially?
No. So for me, using myself personally as an example, I took the web development course full stack with yourselves at Dublin Coding School. The company that I went into as an internship gave me the opportunity based on, yes, I had HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but the company I work for works in React. So I had never touched a library or framework, and 100% of what I know from React was taught to me on the job.
Yeah. So you go in with a kind of a grounding or a baseline, and then you have to pick up things as you go along.
Yeah,
Okay, well, look,
absolutely.
that's brilliant, Shaun. Well, look, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts before I just fill people in a little bit about the school and other things.
No, if nobody has any other questions, by all means.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. So look, thank you very much for joining us. I'll just quickly say again that Dublin Coding School's website is dublincoding.ie. We actually have a full stack web development course coming up on the 8th of April. So that's filling up fast, and that's obviously one of the topics we talked about today. The fee is 1,350. There's a 10% discount if you pay the full fee straight away. So you can find that on dublincoding.ie, or if you want to email in, it's info@dublincoding.ie about any of our courses or even questions about today. And Shaun mentioned there, he learned the framework React. We have a new course actually called React Fundamentals, which if you are a web developer, or even a junior developer, and you want to upskill in the React framework, we now offer that course. It's going to be launching in May, and you can also find that on the website. I should say, when you take one of our courses as well, we have a career center service after the course finishes, which is kind of what we were talking about today, where we have consultations to help with your CV, your LinkedIn, your online presence. We also can advise on interview technique. We have partner companies who let us know when they have open roles or internships, and we can put people forward for those. And we now have a growing alumni group on LinkedIn for people who've done our courses. Join the alumni group, and they can keep up to date there with news, articles, but also we post opportunities and jobs there that we come by at the school. So a lot going on. As I said, you can get us at dublincoding.ie or email us at info@dublincoding.ie. My name's Luke Treacy. I'm the general manager. I'll say goodbye now and have a great weekend. Easter's coming up, and also maybe goodbye from Shaun.
See you later, guys. Hopefully,
Okay, thank you.
that helped.